Hi, welcome. I'm Katie McDonald with b.nourished. And I thought this was the perfect time to take a moment and just think, just pause about how we might approach the holiday season. So many of us are at a pace that doesn't feel human, definitely doesn't feel humane. And we want to take a moment and simply remember that we have agency here, that we are 100% in control of how we respond to whatever's happening in the world around us. And part of the world right now is the holiday season. And this is the time when we tend to forget ourselves. And I want to remind you of your responsibility to yourself. The fact is, a lot of us have developed new habits that feel tender and fragile, and this is a chance to protect them. I'm not talking about being a party pooper by any means. We can have a lot of magic, we can have a ton of fun, but what we do need to do is elevate above the moment. See, because left to our own devices, we're just left to the holiday season and doing in this new world. Of course, things are different than we might have done in the past because of the pandemic, but there are elements, triggers, if you will, that if we tend to spend every Christmas just binging and drinking and food and all of that, it's like, okay, if that's working for you, go for it. Honestly, 100%. Here's what doesn't work: when we're not decisive, when we go in with ideas that we're going to be all nice and we end up being naughty, so to speak, right? If we have these delusions that we're going to just stay on whatever diet we're on or whatever else, and then actually don't have a strategy and plan to be able to support it, that's where the suffering comes in. The suffering comes in indecision. When we're half-assing it, we are miserable. We've got one foot in two different, one foot in one world and one foot in the other, and we haven't made a plan. So we have this decision fatigue. We are just making these micro choices all day long, gnawing away. Do I have this? Do I not have this? And you know what happens? We're not present. Instead, we're just engaging that's going in all sorts of cray directions. And what we want to do is instead have a strategy. The holidays are no different than any other kind of unusual circumstances to our regular day-to-day. When my clients in my concierge coaching practice are going on vacation, we strategize. Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? How do you want to eat? How do you want to exercise? We make a plan so that they can be completely free to be present and engaged and enjoy the very thing that they set out to do. So in our moment selves, well, I love being in the moment, all of that, that's all, mindfulness, all that, great, be in the moment, be present. However, we don't necessarily want to make decisions in that state of mind. We want to elevate above and get a sense of that future self. So in the case of the holidays, if you happen to celebrate Christmas, for instance, we want to connect with the Saturday morning self, right? And say, hey, how do you want to feel Saturday morning, right? Because if we've been binging all day and we've been lounging around on the sofa in sweatpants and we've been drinking and just the fact is, every bite we take, every thought we have, every action we take, it influences us either in the moment or gets magnified and influences us the next day when we are saddled with regret. So let's assume that you want to feel great on Saturday. You really do, but you don't want to feel deprived during the holiday itself. So one approach is we just say, hey, I want to drink, but how much do I want to drink? What's that tipping point when the alcohol's really nice, but then I don't feel good and I'm not willing to have the consequences that come on the other side? That's one example of something that we want to negotiate. So a lot of my clients, if they were going on a vacation or as we're talking about the holidays, I ask them, like, how much do you plan on drinking? Let's plan now. Let's eliminate the indecision and the lack of clarity and the fuzzy thinking, because once you drink, like, then we forget it all, right? That's the whole point. We want to numb ourselves, or we do end up numbing ourselves when we're overeating or drinking. That's what happens. So we want to be able to elevate the choice prior. So when we're not in that moment of temptation. So how much we might look at a time span. We might say, you know what, our celebrations are going to start at noon and go till midnight. Okay, that's a long time. We want to then ask ourselves, like, how much do I want to drink during that time span? Some clients will actually say, you know what, I'm going to stop drinking at 6 o'clock, or I'm not going to drink at all, whatever that is, or I'm only going to drink wine and not have the hard liquor. I'm asking you simply to have a plan. Because when we have a plan, again, we don't exhaust ourselves with decision fatigue, and we get to actually have way more fun, be fully present, and not dread the consequences, and not, the next day, and also not feel the amnesia that comes when we don't want to think about it. We don't want to remember that every choice has a consequence, be it a deposit or a withdrawal in our well-being. So in the case of my clients, they've been working so hard to adjust their habits so that they can really feel phenomenal about themselves, and feel youthful and energized and intentional, and that they can get a ton done. My clients they're high achievers. They accomplish a lot. They expect a lot of themselves. And they also want to have fun and be joyful and grateful and all of that stuff that comes with it. So we've got to know ourselves. Self-care is fundamentally about self-awareness. It starts there. So we study our habits all along. So if you have these fragile new habits that you've embraced, I would encourage you to ask yourself, how do I want to show up on the Christmas holiday or the New Year holiday or any other variation, whatever you may be celebrating? Ask yourself well in advance, how do I want to show up for that day for myself and for the people I love? So one of the things we want to consider is definitely alcohol. We want to just ask ourselves, do I want to have it? How much do I want to have it? What kind of boundaries do I need so that I can feel phenomenal and be present, be the person that I want to be, and be proud of who I am and contribute positively to the celebration? So another thing we want to look at is food. We may say, you know what, it's going to be a freaking free-for-all and I'm all in. Whatever we choose, I'm asking you to make that choice and to stand in it and to be unapologetic about it, and don't weaponize it. You don't get to make this choice and then beat yourself up for it, because what's the point of that? You now get the calorie load, you get the guilt. No, make a decision, stand in it unapologetically, and enjoy it. Be fully present. If you're going to have all the things that come with it, the calories as well as the taste and the delight and the connection and all these other things that come with it, own it fully, unapologetically own it, and be fully present and enjoy it. So on the food front, you might say, you know what, I typically have a smoothie for breakfast. I'm going to stick with that. I know that it's going to be a deposit. It's in my nutritional profile. I'm going to load it up with greens, because what do we want? We want the alkalinity that comes from leafy greens, because we know without a doubt there's going to be a whole lot of acidity in the form of sugar, acidity in the form of processed foods, things that we most likely don't normally eat on a regular basis. If you are eating on a regular basis, we need to talk, but let's just assume these are things you're not normally eating. So our bodies actually, we need to flood it with the alkalinity of leafy greens. So pile on the leafy greens. Breakfast, not that important, unless your Christmas breakfast or holiday breakfast is a big deal. If it isn't, then go for a smoothie. Just get a ton of nutrition in there and set yourself up. And then decide, if you have a lunch, is it going to be later in the day? Pace yourself. Just be aware of what is it going to look like? When are we eating, right? The later you eat, the more compromised your sleep is going to be. So I encourage you to keep the calorie load a little bit earlier in the day instead of waiting towards the end of the day when it's going to really impact your sleep. Keep in mind that the digestion process is exhausting for our body. 60 to 70% of our body's resources are devoted to breaking down food. So if we're eating a ton of really heavy food, as we tend to do during the holidays, then our body is going to be more tired. It's going to be more drained, and it's not going to have the resources to divert into other body processing like healing and rest and restoration. So keep that in mind. The lighter that you can eat closer to sleep, we can be less taxing on the digestive tract and really protect that precious sleep that we all need. Because again, not only we want to feel great the next day, we want to feel great at the start of the new year. What we do now is going to influence our ability to feel fabulous, right? And start the new year not with regret and bloat and our skin breaking out and all the stuff that can come. Instead, we can say, you know what, I'm going to have what I want. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to be clear about what I'm going to have. I'm going to have peace of mind while I have it. And then I'm going to gently get right back. Whatever deviation, if we're eating differently than we are right now during this holiday season, it's not permission to have it, let it all go, right? We want to say right now, today is the day. This is how I'm going to do it. and then enjoy it. Don't overthink it. Don't get caught in your head. Take the elevator down, get in your body, be present for the experience, laugh, hug, do all the things that we want to do, all the whole point for the holiday season. And then we begin again the next day. We begin again feeling fabulous. We begin again making the choices that make us feel great. So we've got our smoothie, whatever it is you're going to have for lunch. Again, that's not part of the holiday meal. Get as much nutrition piled in as you can, and then you're going to have more choices, bigger bandwidth. So decide in advance, like, hey, I'm going to have the appetizer. I'm going to have one dessert versus three. I had a client recently that was preparing for Thanksgiving, and she actually absolutely loves one particular type of dessert, and it's actually a pie. And I was like, you know what? What do you want to have? Like, if it's a pie, you have it, and how many pieces do you want to have? Like, we can get as detailed as we need to be. I don't want you distracted by the plan. I want you supported, buttressed by the plan. Think of it as scaffolding so that we can quiet the mind, we can quiet and tame the bully that might show up in our head telling us that we should be doing that or shouldn't be doing that, etc. So the other thing we want to ask is sleep. Like, we're going to make better choices if we get good sleep. So if you can sleep the night before your big celebration, try to do that. Take a bubble bath. Like, it's wonderful. We've had like a really quiet year this year, quieter than a lot of us are comfortable with. So it's a big change when we've got these loud celebrations. So quiet your senses a little bit, give yourself a pause, give yourself an alternative to all the Christmas music. Just shut it down for a little bit, get in a bubble bath, take a little longer shower than usual, climb into those sheets, get cozy, and then just be ready to engage meaningfully, to show up and bring your best self. So another area that we might consider is exercise. Like, how do we blow it off? Well, I would encourage you to actually get as much done as you could in your normal well-being practice. Bang it out before all the festivities begin. So you're going to make better choices. You're going to feel more grounded. You're going to feel more intentional, and you're going to remember who you are. This is what I see happen over and over again, is that we go into these seasons, we go into this kind of time of celebration, and we fall into our old habits. We forget who we are. If we've worked hard to build new habits, we forget that we do these habits because we feel great, not because we want to be depriving. I hate deprivation. Never want to trip that wire. It's not needed. What we want to do is connect with what makes us feel great. Don't we want to feel great in the holiday season? We're actually going to be nicer to be with. We're going to like ourselves better. We're going to feel great. We're going to look great. We're going to feel empowered and intentional. So I want you to just figure out, is there a way that I can still anchor myself in my habits, show up for myself, have my own back, and have fun and be festive and be engaging and all of those things? So I would encourage you, especially because a lot of times, even with our smaller celebrations this year, that we just have a moment to connect with ourselves. Go out for a walk. Just stand outside, take some deep breaths, move your body. If you normally do a hardcore workout and you want something gentler, then go for a walk. We dismiss walking, but it's a powerful, powerful routine that gets us in our body and in our heads. So in the best way, not crazy circling around with all of our thoughts, but really to start crafting and creating space for creativity. Keep in mind, this is a sacred time of year. No matter what your traditions are, this is a time where we're readying ourselves for the new year. We're considering, how do I want to set up the new year? Who do I want to be? What do I want to accomplish? So as much interaction we can have with ourselves, engaging with ourselves in just thoughtful, mindful moments where we can really just get a sense, hear those whispers that in this season are so easy to be drowned out in all the shopping and all the stimulation coming at us, the added crisis of just draining us all collectively. This is a time for us to commune with ourselves. And the more we commune with ourselves, the more quiet we get and reflective we get, the more stamina and bandwidth and energy and joy we can bring to the festivities and to the people we love and the people we want to make sure know how much we love them. It always starts with how much we show up for ourselves, how we show love for ourselves. And I'm not talking about contemplating our belly buttons and trying, sitting on a mountaintop. I'm saying connect in with ourselves. Hey, what do you need? How you doing? Every morning, regardless, I anchor myself in habits. And actually, even more so during the holiday, it's so easy to blow it off. That's the time we actually want to lean into them more. That structure and scaffolding to remind us who we are, what we value. I open up my planner, and one of the questions I have on the planner is, what do I need? My brain doesn't go that way naturally. I don't normally think, what do I need? I needed that question there to challenge me to say, hey, what are your needs? I know you're going to show up for everybody else. I know you're going to love big and bring the best that you can to the people that you love. But hey, what do you need right here? And the moment I ask that question, I shift my attention away from all the outward and I turn inward. And I really vow that whatever answer I come up, I'm going to do my best to protect that. So what do I need? What do you need, right? What do you need to feel fabulous during this holiday season? What could you do on your behalf to protect that, to make sure that you have tended to your own needs, which, by the way, makes you way better suited to tend to the needs of the people that you love. So this isn't a selfish indulgence. This isn't self-importance or self-aggrandization. Is that the right word? I don't know, but you get the point. This is essential. This is how we love everybody else. This is how we have an abundant flow of resources, internal resources from which we give, from which we share. So let's get over the guilt. This isn't about it. I hear so many people sheepishly report like, oh my God, I can't go for a walk. I've got things I've got to do. I've got to do all this and I've got to do that. And, people wonder where I am and all this stuff. It's like, oh, no, no, no. You need to make sure that you know where you are, rooted in your own self-care, rooted in your commitment to yourself with a clear understanding that every deposit you make in your own well-being gives you more of an abundance to share with the people that you love and to be fully present instead of distracted by needs or, frankly, distracted by resentment. When we're resentful, I guarantee you, you are underperforming for yourself. You're overgiving, you're overfunctioning everywhere else, and the holidays are the perfect time for resentment. It is just, we want it to be all sunshine and light and rainbows, but the fact is we tend to overgive, and then we're seething in this quiet little rage that we end up eating a bag of chips, right? When we're chewing, we're like, "Arr," right? This rage because we haven't had our own back, we haven't advocated for our needs, or frankly, haven't shown any interest in our needs whatsoever. So how might you do this differently? How might you approach this holiday season with intentionality, with liberating ourselves by being deliberate? We think of structure and scaffolding as handcuffs, or somehow it's limiting us, but in fact, it's setting us free. We quiet our minds, we quiet the vigilance, and we actually set ourselves up to feel successful, to be truly authentic and transparent. So here we are with an opportunity for us to have our own backs and to really fortify ourselves with exceptional self-care. So yes, this is, thank you, Laura. I just saw your comment. It is absolutely, this is the time, right? Overgiving is, it's a Pavlovian response for so many of us. That bell rings of somebody else's needs and we're salivating with, how can I serve that? How can I address that? And what happens is we get strangled by our superhero capes. We want them flowing behind. We feel so good and so martyr, like we love the martyrdom thing. But as I often say, it is so last century. It's time, like, take off your superhero cape, because the thing is, we are far more powerful, an example, far more heroic when we're role modeling what exceptional self-care looks like. When we're actually saying, you know what, by my showing up for me, by my having my own back, for my having habits, despite what's happening around me, still showing up for me, I'm reminding you that you have permission to do the same, that you have this beautiful window of opportunity to grant yourself the same permission. So if anybody has any questions about how they might navigate the holiday season, please throw them on in. I'm happy to address them. It's all about strategies. It's all about a plan. And none of that compromises the fun. In fact, it readies you to have even more fun. So don't hesitate to put some questions in there. Yes, the power of no is a yes for ourselves. Laura, that's so perfect. We are so masterful at saying no to ourselves. So many people come to me like, oh, I'm not good at saying no. I'm like, oh, sweetheart, you are so good at saying no. It's just to yourself. And what we need to do is say, you know what? Yes, yes to me. Yes to my needs. Yes to my capacity to love. And I'm going to start with me. And from that, I multiply my capacity to love and be of service. So figuring out what our yeses are and what our clear no's are and vice versa, that's our job. That's our opportunity and that's our privilege. And here's the thing, the holidays give us this compressed opportunity to do just that. This beautiful window of practice. And the people that drive you nuts, we all have them. We all have them in our family. Sometimes it's us doing that. I can attest to that one. But the fact is, the ones that push our buttons in our lives, that is, boy, that's the opportunity. So our no, Laura, is going to anger people. Especially if you're somebody that says yes all the time. You have set the standard for being a doormat, right? If you're always a yes to everybody else and a clear no to yourself, then here's the thing, your setting a boundary is going to piss people off. And I want you to know that's the sign that you are on the right path. Two things. People get pissed off because you've taught them how to treat you and you're changing the rules, and nobody likes that, right? They don't like their way of life challenged, but that's okay. That's an indication you're on the right path. For their benefit and yours, right? Where you're not over functioning for everybody else and underperforming for yourself, but you're actually performing for yourself, functioning for yourself, and liberating everybody else to do the same for themselves. And the other piece is guilt. Guilt is gold. Guilt, like I always tell my clients, lean in for the guilt. If you're feeling guilty, you know what? It means that you are on the right path. Because if you're, let's say, in the spectrum of giving, you're starting to feel guilty here, right? Our fear is that we're going to be indulgent, right? Okay, we're not going to go there. Don't worry about it. It's going to feel like that, but you've probably moved a quarter of an inch. Yes, it is. It's like guilt is inevitable if we are wired and committed to constant chronic giving. Guilt is going to say, wow, you're changing the rules. So permission. You have permission. Abracadabra, kalamazoo, bippity boppity, bippity boo, by the powers granted by me. You've had these too. I don't have to give you permission. You have it. You have permission to show up for yourselves. And in fact, how dare you to not have your own back every day, but particularly in the holiday season. That really is the source from which we can be generous in heart, in mind, and body. And there's a quote that I've heard ages ago, and I love this, and I think it's Jim Rohn. It says, you take care of you for me, and I'll take care of me for you. I'm going to say that one again. You take care of you for me, and I'll take care of me for you. It is our responsibility to take care of ourselves. It is our responsibility to parent ourselves. And that's what we're talking about here. How do we parent ourselves? When the reptile brain in us wants to go free for all in the holidays, fine. If you want to go there, make a clear decision. Don't weaponize it. If you're going like, I'm going to just eat all day and drink all day, then make that decision and get off your back, right? If, however, you want to put some barriers up, or not even barriers, just some guidelines. I think of it as duck pin bowling, and you put up those, what are those things? So that you don't go in the gutter, right? So you like bump along, but you just don't go in the gutter. So we want to put up some boundaries. We want to put up this like spine, this casing that holds us up. Then do it. That's how we parent ourselves. That parenting ourselves means we check in with ourselves and go like, hey, how do I want to feel Saturday morning self? If I'm going to hold myself to a run, accountable to a run on Saturday morning, then I'm going to make different choices the day before. So make a choice, make a plan, say yes to yourself, and know when to say no. What is that like before you enter into the temptation, into the moment? And if moments of deprivation come up, I want you to catch yourself and be like, whoa, wait. When we set the rules, there's nothing to be deprived of. Like nothing. And we should be the ones setting the rules for what we ingest in time, in content, in energy, in food, in drink. That's like, they need to be our rules, right? It's our body, it's our responsibility. So deprivation, like just notice it and say, well, hey, am I depriving myself of that, fourth beer? Or am I, by having that fourth beer, am I actually depriving myself of feeling fabulous the next day? So deprivation can go in lots of different ways. We have to decide, first of all, if deprivation even describes the experience. And then what do we want to apply that to? Are we going to point to that deprivation as, oh, that's deprivation of that fourth beer, or deprivation of us feeling great the next day, right? It can go either way. So there is, what I'm asking you to do is to change the way you change. That this is this wonderful window. It's a microcosm for us to study our habits and observe, and to have fun doing it, and to understand, like, wow, I can actually feel great, do great, make good choices for myself, still feel present and indulged in a beautiful way, and then also feel great the next day and have consequences that, I signed up for and am all good for. So pause, reflect, take a moment. And, one of the questions that we might want to consider too is, like, how do I keep a normal schedule? And I would encourage you to not keep a normal schedule at all. That's something that people often ask me. I want to ask you to say, like, what kind of work? Do you want to work at all during the holidays? And not just on the actual day of, but the days before. Make a plan now. I've actually blocked off days I am not working. And I really had to put that in my calendar. I love, 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 love what I do. It's a privilege to do what I do. And I know it and I love it. But that doesn't make me, that makes me more vulnerable to wanting to do it all the time. I love other aspects of my life, but I am in this rich, deep creative process around my work, and I want to do it all the time. But I also know how vitally important it is for me to remove myself, to restore myself. Even though I'm not out in the world, given the pandemic, my world's very small right now. I'm going to challenge myself and commit myself to not engaging with work for a number of days. And I block that out. And here's the thing, what we're talking about is keeping a contract with ourselves. I know you keep your word to everybody else. You wouldn't be listening. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be interested in this message if you didn't. So I'm going to ask you to actually treat whatever plan you make as a contract with yourself. The sleep. The better rested you are, keeping your normal schedule of sleep, the better rested you are, the more likely you are to feel great and to really enjoy the festivities and not pass out in a, just from sheer exhaustion. And so many of us are careening into the holidays, exhausted, depleted, not intentional, and then bam, we don't feel well, or just we crash. And what I'm asking is, like, right now, days before the holiday season, or at any point, plan the sleep, get a little bit more. You need it. We need the rest. We need the break. We need the pause, the collective pause, so that we can really savor the moment. Keeping the exercise regardless, moving your body. If you normally do that hour hardcore, Peloton workout or something, just say, how could I move my body in a different way that would feel fun and festive and different, but also would be, holding the responsibility of making sure that this body has moved and feels alive and vibrant and youthful. So a lot of the foods that we're eating during the holidays make our joints ache. They're inflammatory foods. So one of the ways we can remedy that is to monitor how much we have or not, but we also can make sure that we're exercising, staying super hydrated. A lot of the foods we eat are salty. Alcohol is dehydrating, so drink, and we're inside with with the heat on, so our skin's getting dehydrated. One of my favorite things to do is just nourish myself with all sorts of yummy lotions and just luxuriate in the shower, just have, put some beautiful lotion on. It's more important than the outfit you put on. And I love clothes, trust me, but the skin is really the most important set of clothes that we're in, our skin suit, so to speak. So, spoil yourself that way and just feel good and radiant and youthful. So the question of how do we keep our normal schedule, I want you to have enough normal that you don't forget yourself, that you are rooted in the routines that make you feel like you, but then do it differently, make it feel different, shake it up a little bit, just so that it feels festive, that there's, that there is an interruption to our regular day, so that there feels some novelty and experience. So another thing we might want to consider, the obstacles. People pleasing is the biggest obstacle around the holidays. Here's the thing, catch yourself. It's never going to work. The people pleasing thing, it's going to bite you in the butt. I promise you. The temptation to, to be like the panting, and it's the vigilance of trying to keep in track of everybody else's needs, anticipating everybody else's needs. First of all, it's arrogant. You have no idea what everybody else's needs are. Your first business is your own needs. And then you're in a better position to be able to meet those needs when they come to you. That's one piece. The other piece is the part that gets in the way is that we think that our needs are inconvenient for other people. No, our moods, when we lose it because we haven't done what we needed to do, that's inconvenient for other people. Our passing out from exhaustion because we've deprived ourselves of sleep and all the other things because we're over functioning, that is when we're inconvenient to everybody else. Our drinking so much and getting rude and obnoxious, inconvenient to everybody else, right? So there are lots of ways in which we tell ourselves, so that we play small, that our needs might interrupt or be an obstacle. Look, if you eat differently than everybody else, do your thing. You're not asking anybody to do backflips to accommodate you. Be prepared to meet your own needs. If you're on a special diet, or you want to bring a dish for yourself, you want to make sure that you have, because you feel good and it feels yummy and delicious to you, by all means, bring it yourself. Make sure that you're the one that's ready to meet your own needs, and then be present and loving and available to support the people around you. So our biggest obstacles are our sense of guilt, our sense of too muchness, right? Not only in what we consume, but in what we give. So find that sweet spot where you're showing up for yourself and you're showing up for the people that you love in a way that feels meaningful. And then one of the things I do every season, every holiday, everything I do, I open up my planner and I write what worked and what didn't work. I'm constantly exploring the concept of Kaizen, right? Continuous improvement. I always want to say, what worked? Like, oh, I did this differently. I want to do that again. Oh, I did that. Don't want to do that again. Study your own habits, but study also the way in which you celebrate it and how you might do things differently. This is what an intentional life looks like. This is what a life of meaning looks like, of authenticity looks like. Do you. Don't get caught up in comparisonitis. I would encourage you to get off the social media, to look in the mirror and look at your family, and don't look at social media and everybody else's packaged lives. It's comparisonitis is a threat to our joy, a threat to the beauty of this season. So I would really encourage you to compare yourself only to the version of you yesterday, or compare yourself to the version of you that you wanted to have show up today. Right? Whatever that is, that's the point of comparison. Ourselves, not with bullying, not with judgment, not with meanness, not with an edginess, or disgust, but compassion and curiosity. This is a chance for us to just say, hey, what might I do differently next time? No judgment, but joy and curiosity, because you have a genuine commitment to refinement, right? To growth, to tweaking, not because there's something wrong, but because you're genuinely curious about what the potential is. How fun is that? That's fun. So happy holidays. I am so grateful for this opportunity to share my thoughts around the holidays. And I would really encourage you right now, while it's fresh, open up your planner, grab a piece of paper, whatever you do you, but I would encourage you to use pen and paper. We're 45% more likely to achieve our goals when we write pen to paper versus typing. So take a moment, write out, what is your vision? Who do you want to be during the holidays? And what do you need to do now to ready yourself for that? And write it out, and then really envision it. Close your eyes and just connect with that vision. Connect with that version of you and watch how your relationships deepen. The most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. And if you have a scarcity mindset, if you have an approach to yourself that is depriving and negative and condemning, let that be the relationship that heals this holiday season. And from there, you bring the love and the full capacity and abundance in your life to all the other relationships. And frankly, we need that. We need your bright light. And it starts with how you show up for yourself. So thank you for showing up for yourself and for me today.